This is just one of those mornings. The weather is perfect, the scene is set for a relaxing day here at camp, except we can't stay too long because we have somewhere else to be this afternoon. We've just spent the past few days here at Rooiputs, on the Botswana side of the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, hanging out with the mischievous jackals. And while it's sad to say goodbye, there's a sense of excitement as we make some coffee for the road and tick a few items off the checklist before the drive to Mata begins. We need to do some running repairs this morning. While we were driving yesterday, we lost the piece that connects from here to here. So we're going to have to make one out of wire. But for now, I think a cable tie will work just through that hole around here, and then we can kind of cam it over. Another thing I wanted to do is to air down even further, as we had some soft sand driving planned for today, and I settled on 1.3 bar at the rear and 1 bar at the front. The park recommends 1.6 bar, but at these slow speeds that we'll be driving, we can definitely go lower. Okay, so who has their radios on?
Mine is on, I can hear you. Yep.
Mr. Jimny.
Jimmy is off.
I'll keep an eye on him. Today we find ourselves heading westwards towards our camp for the night in Mata, which is right on the border between South Africa and Namibia. The quickest and easiest way to get there is to head down the Auob River Valley towards Rooiputs and then turn into the Auob River Valley and follow the river all the way to Mata. The plan is to stop in Rooiputs to get some supplies, but while we're there we also plan to see if we can get a permit to do the Leeudril 4x4 trail, which will give us a change of scenery and allow us to cut over the dunes. The roads have been so tame so far, and I didn't air down my tires for nothing.
Good morning. I thought I'd be like you.
Good morning. We made a bit of a later start than we thought. It's like 10:30, so yeah, we're supposed to be at our campsite by 10, but we finally got away, and we are heading down towards Rooiputs, and from there we're going to make a call of whether we're going to go straight to Mata or whether some of us or all of us are going to do one of the 4x4 trails in the area. I'm personally very keen to do a 4x4 trail because we haven't had any proper sand driving yet, and I want to just feel how this vehicle handles some softer sand, new tires, new suspension, all that stuff. At Rooiputs we part ways, Luke and Rachel heading to Upington, Mike and Tina decide to take the more direct route to Mata, and that leaves the Legend 45 and the Legend 50 at the permit office, getting the necessary paperwork to tackle the dunes. The trail starts off fairly mild, but as we progress further westwards and the dunes start to get a little bigger, it gradually becomes more and more bumpy. These cross-axle holes in the track are because of previous drivers not dropping tire pressures enough. If your tires are too hard, they will tear up soft roads like this. For now we're driving parallel to the dunes, but at some point we'll have to get over them. The dunes don't have the same carrying capacity as the river valleys as far as animals go, so we're not expecting to see a lot on this section of the drive, but we do enjoy the few encounters that we have along the way. It's amazing that anything can survive out here, and it's fascinating to see how certain species have just adapted to the desert environment. These spiky fruits are called gemsbok cucumbers and are supposedly very sought after by porcupines, although they're not very tasty to the human palate. We eventually come to our first proper dune, and by the looks of things, this will require a good balance of speed. Go too slow and you'll lose momentum up the hill, go too fast, you'll be shaken to bits. Low third does the trick. The middle section of this trail was quite fun. There were quite a few dunes we had to crawl up, and over every dune lay another little valley. If there's one weakness of my current setup, it's probably that I don't have the same rear axle articulation that I used to have, thanks to the airbags. The current weight is probably also a bit much for the shocks to handle, and it takes a little while for the side-to-side sway to settle down. Aside from that though, the ride is super comfortable, and I'm always amazed at just how easily this diesel engine just puts down torque when I need it, despite the extra load. At no point have I ever felt like I needed more power.
I must say, it's really nice to actually be on a trail where there's a little bit of technical stuff. It's really not so bad, but we've had one or two like dune crossings where there's some proper, like, I don't know if corrugations is the right word, but you can see people have driven here with their tires too hard, and it's just made some big sort of bumps on either side. And that's been good for us because firstly we've been able to test like how our suspension and the airbags handle sort of that crazy side to side movement, and even sort of experiment with different pressures to see what's the right pressure when we load it up for the airbags to handle that without kind of getting out of control, moving too much. And then also we've obviously got 17-inch rims and new tires, the general grabbers, and like this isn't really soft enough for us to have to put them really low pressures and kind of rev the engines up and try and get up the dunes. We've been able to cruise up pretty easily just driving slowly, but it is really nice to just get out and do something 4x4 instead of kind of being stuck on a really properly graded gravel road with just dust being blown up from the people in front of you. And it's kind of like the roads we've been on have been kind of like a highway for between all the main camps, so there's quite a bit of traffic. This is something you have to book, you have to go to the front desk, book it, and there's no one else on here, which is really cool. So yeah, it's been I'm really glad we did this. It's been a fun experience, and we are going to get a lot more of this later in the series when we go deep into the Botswana side towards Matopi and Mabua Sehube. So you definitely want to subscribe because that's going to be a proper adventure. That's probably what I'm looking forward to the most in this whole trip.
Suddenly, the red dunes are replaced with white gravel, and we find ourselves descending into the Auob River Valley, taking a right turn towards Mata Mata. Yep, there are definitely more animals down here in this valley. If you're coming here specifically to see animals, you'll be happy sticking to the Auob and the Auob valleys. I kind of miss the dunes already though. As we move further west, we start to see some rocky cliffs on either side, and this reminds me so much of our last day on the Namakwa Eco Trail, when we were in these crazy dunes near Alexander Bay, and suddenly we descended into a valley and it was like a totally different world.
On the edge of these cliffs we start to see some old stone buildings which must have some history attached to them.
They look like broken down on gravels.
Yeah, so on the map this place is called Comfortsboom, and when I was in the office this morning they had like a book with different place names and like the meaning of the names, and they said Comfortsboom. They said Comfort was the borehole watcher who lived in this area, and that's where we are now. So I wonder if those are like the little rock structures where this borehole watcher used to sit and like watch sheep, and the sheep were here at the borehole or something like that. That's probably the history.
Yeah, possibly. There might be more about it at the museum at the picnic site.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see. The museum that Isabel is talking about here is the Auchterlonie Museum, which is this building here. We're all very curious to find out why this place has been made into a museum. Who in their right mind would have lived here, and why? I'm standing here at the Auchterlonie Museum, and it's a pretty cool spot. There's like some picnic sites, there's a bathroom, and then there's a series of old stone buildings behind us with sort of recreations or maybe the originals of what those like bedrooms and living quarters would have looked like for these buildings back in the day. It turns out that the history of this riverbed, the Auob riverbed, is that prior to the, in World War I, Southwest Africa, which is current day Namibia, was occupied by the Germans, and South Africa was occupied by the British, and they were expecting an invasion from Southwest Africa into South Africa. So in order to prepare for that, they actually dug a series of boreholes along this river so that the troops had a sort of a way to travel in. As it turns out, the South African military actually invaded Southwest Africa at some point, and we spoke about this when we did the Namakwa Eco Trail a few years ago, and we camped at a place called Rammansdrift where Nicole found an old 303 cartridge, or spent case rather, that we researched the head stamp and found out that it was military issue during World War I. So yeah, it's funny how all these things tie together, but yeah, a lot of history here. You can see it in these old stone buildings, and it's cool to see that that's been so well preserved. Imagine living out here. It must have been a pretty tough and lonely life. We're so used to being connected nowadays that we forget that some people had to endure extreme isolation for long periods of time. And why is the window so tiny? My guess is that it's probably to stop the lions getting in. There's also a picnic site here, and we take the time to enjoy some lunch in the shade while we're watched by the beady eyes of a mongoose before eventually moving on once again. Well, that was a pretty cool lunch stop, but we're getting on with time. It's about 3:30 now, and we've only done a third of our total distance today, so a long way to go. We're probably going to put foot down, yeah, 84 kilometers to Mata Mata. So 84 kilometers on this road. It's going to take a while, but hopefully we can get there before sunset, and if not, hopefully we can get there before the gates close. Auchterlonie is not the only borehole on the Auob River. In fact, there are many along this route, and as we get closer to Mata Mata, there are a number of loops that shoot off from the main road and past these waterholes. Water creates life, and at each of these waterholes we find groups of animals.
Hey, bookies.
We just had a little reminder of why we have made the decision not to pull a big trailer. We were driving on the road. It was sandy, but not like sand that you should get stuck in. And we just saw a group of vehicles in front, and our first thought was, well, maybe they've seen some animals and maybe they've stopped to look at them. And as we came close, they just told us, go back, go back, go back. And we went back. We took a bit of a detour, and when we passed them, we saw it's just a huge roadblock of vehicles pulling big trailers that had all got stuck behind each other in the soft sand and couldn't reverse out. So yeah, just goes to show you've got to be careful, you know, if you're going to a place like this where there's potential for being stuck in soft sand. Reconsider driving with a massive trailer. I mean, we can't speak too carefully because we're pulling a lot of weight here, but I think having a lot of weight on the back of a bucky like this is probably still a little bit better than pulling a heavy trailer, because those wheels behind the trailer aren't contributing to your traction at all. So yeah, good to get out of this one. Mata Mata is 42 kilometers ahead, and yep, sun is going to be going down in about an hour and a half. As we get nearer to Mata Mata, the roads actually become a little bit worse, like really corrugated, a lot of washboard, and with the sand getting a bit softer, you can feel, you know, it wants to pull your car this way and that, and you've got to find that sort of magic speed where you glide over the corrugations. And it's given me sort of something to compare my old tires and wheels to, and I'm just really impressed with the way this is handling, especially with all the weight at the back. It just feels like I'm in control. It feels like I'm kind of gliding over, and those rattling vibrations aren't getting through to me, which is great. So yeah, glad that we're getting a little bit of rougher roads today to test this stuff out with. Yeah, we're about 20 k's now from Mata Mata, so not too long. We probably get there before the sun sets, and we can check in and get settled in.
You've also been playing around with the pressures of my airbags on the rear axle. The control system in the center console allows us to adjust on the fly while we're driving and to feel the difference between different pressure settings immediately. This system is also really useful when the driving is over, and you'll see what I mean by that just a little later when we get to camp.
Gate for you to get, love.
Love getting gates. It's my favorite pastime.
We've just checked in at Mata Mata as the sun's going down. These campsites are a little bit more congested than some of the wilder camping spots on the Botswana side, but it's still quite nice. We've got lots of shade here amongst the trees, and we've managed to get two camp spots right next to each other, which is obviously better than being spread apart. So we'll enjoy a lekker braai tonight and hang out, and yeah, hopefully the other guys arrive fairly soon, because I think the gates close not too long from now.
Remember when I said that the air spring control system was useful when not driving? Well, this is what I meant. There's nothing worse than sleeping in a skew rooftop tent, but look how easy it is to level the vehicle just by deflating or inflating the airbags.
Tonight for dinner we're going all the way. We had garlic bread, which we've already finished, me and Nicole. We are then going to move on to a lovely Geelperske wors from Van Rensburg's Butchery in George. This is one of our favorite worses. And then we've got merino chicken sausages from Merino Butchery in PE, and we've got merino pork rashers as well, which we're going to season up with our favorite spice once again. So yeah, proper meal tonight. Then we'll get some good rest, and I think the plan is early tomorrow morning we're going to get up as the gate opens and go for a bit of a game drive to see what we can find. It's a chilly 0 degrees as we head out of the Mata Mata gate and back east along the Auob River. Yes, this is the same road that we came in on yesterday, but with all the waterholes along this route, it is probably the best chance we're going to get to see something interesting. Plus, the reality is that there isn't really anywhere else we can drive. This is the only road in the area that isn't prohibited. If there's one thing that frustrates me about the South African side of the park, it's that there's far more red tape with regards to where you can and can't drive. The Botswana side just feels more wild and unrestricted. That being said though, we were treated to an abundance of giraffes on this morning, straight off the bat, and there were some good bird sightings too. So we decided to get up early this morning and leave just as they opened the gate so we could, try get that first light experience and see if we can see some animals. We've already had some luck, we've seen some giraffes, but we're really here for the big cats. So if we can see some lions or leopards today, or maybe some caracals, that would be fantastic. Fingers crossed, but either way we're enjoying the drive and we're going to make the most of it. There's a lot of luck involved with spotting lions and leopards. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And this morning we seem to have just missed the action. We found fresh lion tracks in the road and they just veer left and over the dunes. Judging by how calm the springbuck in this area are, the danger must have moved on a while back. My personal highlight of this morning was probably watching this honey badger strut across the veld, just oozing with swagger. These are such cool animals. These flocks of Namakwa sandgrouse arriving at the waterhole to drink is one of the classic scenes in the Kgalagadi. They come in like clockwork, arriving in small waves, taking a short drink, and then taking flight again as the next wave arrives. Of course, a waterhole is also the perfect spot to hunt, and something paid the price for not watching its back this morning. Possibly one of the sandgrouse. And to cap it all off, a giraffe calf with its umbilical cord still attached and clearly still finding its feet, trying to keep up with its mother. Back at camp, a late breakfast is being cooked up and it's French toast on the menu with every topping you can think of. Which brings us to the real debate. Is French toast supposed to be eaten with savory toppings, like tomato sauce, salt and pepper, like you'd eat an egg? Or is it supposed to be eaten with sweet toppings, like syrup and condensed milk? I have a feeling that this is something we should vote on. As with Rooiputs, I really enjoyed nothing more than just relaxing at camp and reading a book, listening to the birds and soaking in the sun. Mata Mata is a fenced camp, so you don't have to watch your back as much as you might need to on the Botswana side. I suppose this is a good and bad thing. Personally, I enjoy the challenge of trying to relax, knowing that something might be trying to eat you. But I suppose there's a place for everything.
Wow.
The Namibia border is right here at Mata Mata, and we considered popping across into Namibia just for a quick picnic lunch, but the cost of getting your vehicle through the border was just not really worth the few hours that we would have spent there. While I chilled hard at camp, Nicole decided to hop in the Hilux with Jason and Isabel and head out for another game drive. Most of the action happens around sunrise and sunset, so it makes sense to use these moments to try find that elusive lion or leopard. Different people have different things that they want to sort of achieve when they go on these trips. I'm not really one for like driving around looking for animals all day. Nicole enjoys that a bit more, so she's gone out with the rest of them. For me, on this trip in particular, I actually just want to relax and take it really slow and try to just soak in the sounds and smells around me, which is kind of hard to do when you're driving. So yeah, I've parked off here in the camp. Sun is going to go down in about an hour. I've got a nice ice cold Savannah draw out, and I'm sitting and reading a book, and that just does it for me. I feel refreshed. Our resident artist, Hannah, took the time to paint a scene from each place we stayed. What an epic way to record a memory. Tonight, the fire is just for Gies, as the ladies prepare to cook up something special.
It's a bit of a throwback, Matt, making some naan this time.
Yeah, just with better quality chicken.
That's true. Make some space for you, Nicole.
We got a sample going soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, we love a sample.
I love the sample.
Too bad we can't put coriander in the samples because we've got some uncivilized.
That means you're making a proper sample.
That is the sign of an adult.
Drinking what?
Gin.
You know when the bottle of Auob comes out that it's going to be a good evening, even if it's just being used as a rolling pin. This is Isabel proudly explaining the many uses of a bottle of Auob, but unfortunately the audio wasn't recording, so you'll have to just use your imagination.
Yo, that's looking good, Tina.
Yeah. Some butter chicken.
So these are some naan breads. They don't look too bad if I say so myself. Look at that. So at the moment we've just got our chicken busy browning, and then shortly we're going to add our butter chicken sauce, some canned tomatoes, a bit of cream, and I don't think you could go wrong with that. What about a naan jaffle?
Yeah,
You could do a butter chicken
Yeah.
naan jaffle.
that would be like such a clash of cultures. As we conclude our last night at Mata Mata, I want to thank you for joining along on this leg of our adventure once again. In the next episode, we'll be tackling another relatively long drive to Auob, ticking a few more species off the list, and running through some of our camping setups as we prepare to leave the civilized campsites behind and head deep into Botswana. Make sure you subscribed, and we'll see you then.